Hi Kendall. Here's the tutorial on the finger sequencer, which is my go-to sequencer for all of my drum programming that I do, as well as a very useful sequencer for bass lines that don't have sustained notes or arpeggiations. In part 1 of this tutorial, we'll focus on using the finger sequencer with just the drums. So let's go into the drums, and then holding down the Shift menu, go ahead and press the sequencer button. Toggle on down to the finger sequencer and hit the sequencer button again, and we're in the finger sequencer. So in the finger sequencer, each one of the 14 white keys, it can be a different sequence that you can pre-program and then combine in various ways to create the patterns you need for your song. Again, when you're within the sequencer, each one of the white buttons represents a pattern, not an individual drum sound or note. So outside of this sequencer, each one of these keys plays a drum sound or a note. In this sequencer, each one of these keys will play a pattern. Let's program a pattern. You can move from step to step in two ways. You can either turn the blue dial, or you can hold down Shift and press the left and right arrows to move back and forth between the steps. To program a drum sound to a step, just hold down the Shift button and then hit the key for the sound you want on that step. You can have 2 sounds per step. Notice when you hit Shift, you'll see this little eraser come up. That's how you erase something. Just hold Shift and turn the blue knob. As you move the highlighted square past a step, the step will be erased. So hold down Shift to enter sounds. Hold Shift and turn the blue to take them away. So where this sequencer gets a little bit confusing is that this is the sound I use, this hi-hat sound. But the pattern that I was programming into is actually next door. This is where the pattern is for the sound that I just programmed. Let's add a second sound on some of these. Right there and there. So you can see these 2 steps have 2 sounds. We'll add a couple more that will have 2 sounds. And again, you can only have a maximum of 2 sounds per step. So the green knob controls the amount of swing you have, and you'll see above the pattern that I've programmed, there's a little green dot. And as I turn the green knob to the right, that dot will move further to the right. The more extreme you take it, the more extreme the swing is going to be. If you want to get back to no swing, then go ahead and move that little green dot back to that center line, and the swing will be off. The white knob is used to control how many steps are in a pattern you're programming. You can have as few as 1 or as many as 32 steps in a pattern. I'm going to expand this pattern to 32 steps. Let's go ahead and fill up the rest of this pattern. Hold down Shift in order to write to a step, and you can move forward or back a step by using the left or right arrow or turning the blue knob. Let's take a listen. You can go ahead and reduce the amount of steps per pattern, and all that information will still be there. But I'm going to go ahead and reduce it down to 16. The red knob has 2 different functions. The first one's really easy. Press any of the white keys to start a pattern playback, and then turn the red knob to the right. This little hold sign comes up, and the pattern will continue to play even without your finger on the key, until you turn the red knob to the left. Hold down Shift and turn the red knob in order to get to its secondary function of pattern playback control. There's Replace, Join, and Fill in. Replace allows you to switch from pattern to pattern while still keeping in time. Start playback on the first pattern. During playback, select a new pattern. When the first pattern's done, the second pattern replaces it. Before pattern B is done playing, let's switch back to pattern A. The switch happens in perfect time, and we can switch back to B. Very useful when you're recording to the tape. The join function allows you to take 2 different sequences, like this kick and this snare, and to layer them on top of each other. They don't even need to be the same length of sequence. Begin each pattern at the same time, and the patterns will play in combination. You can even take one away and join in another pattern. The final sequence playback mode is Fill in, which will allow you to create drum fills, like doing a snare roll at the end of a pattern. In the last 8 beats of this snare pattern, I can fill in with our drum roll. Now, whenever we press in our fill pattern, it's going to interrupt the original pattern regardless of what step it's on. so it's kind of easy to get off time with the original pattern if you don't time it carefully. By not properly timing my fill-ins, I've gotten all off time in my original pattern. So you need to make sure you use your fill at the proper time. Huzzah! I hardly ever use this function, I just program it in. That way, I'm basically always perfectly on time with my fills. Let's build a beat. Kicks first. Add snares. Let's go ahead and do our fill and roll. Hi-hats. Alright, Kendl, that is the functionality of using the finger sequencer for drums.